Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to talk about FIRE. I don't mean that kind of fire, I mean the FIRE movement. It stands for Financial Independent and Retire Early. It's a huge thing nowadays under millennials. You probably read or heard about it somehow in the last year. And in this video I am gonna give you some pros and cons about this whole FIRE idea, and of course also my opinion. And spoiler alert, I'm gonna tell you already, if you are part of the FIRE movement, you're probably not gonna like what I have to tell you. But before we dive in, please do me a favor, fire up that like button, leave me a comment, click on the bell, click on all so you don't miss anything, share with your friends who think this is useful, and then let's get into the content. Alright guys, so like I said earlier, FIRE stands for Financial Independent and Retire Early. The whole idea behind the concept is that you save 50 to 70% of your monthly income, put it in savings or investings like stocks or real estate, and eventually those savings and investings are big enough that they produce enough passive income, might be dividend or rental income for properties, whatever, that you can live off that passive income that generates it every month or every year, and that you never have to work again a day in your life. And of course, to do that as early as possible so that you still have your whole life ahead of you and that you have your financial base already covered. And with early, preferably in the FIRE idea, it is before you are turning 40, so somewhere in your 20s or 30s, that you have this all arranged. Now, the idea is kind of romantic and actually kind of great that you still have your life ahead of you, you don't have to work anymore, but there are some pros and some cons, and I am going to walk you through real quick and then also give you my honest opinion about this whole movement. Now, first up, I kind of like the idea that it shifts your mindset from the race of just owning stuff, having careers, succeed more, better, bigger, to kind of downsize it to really like what's important in life: freedom, friends, family, love, and that you're not so really focused on always better, bigger, but just really focus on, hey, what do I want? Where do I want to spend my time on? So absolutely pro. The second thing is, and it's not so sexy, but it is very important, is that it kind of pushes you to think about your retirement. Because let's be honest, if you're somewhere in your 20s or beginning of your 30s, you're not thinking about your retirement. Yeah, you just want to get the next job, or you want to get that raise, or you're thinking about your career, where do I want to be in 5 years or 10 years, but you're not thinking about, hey, how does my retirement need to look like in 30 years from now? Where do I need to think about? But by want to retire as early as possible, you are pushed to think about the subject. You are pushed to think about the idea, how do I want to retire for the rest of my life as early as possible? So pushing you to think about already 10, 20, 30 years ahead and acting on that idea, absolutely perfect. Third pro is that it makes you very aware of the cost. This is also something, especially on the millennials, I'm seeing going wrong so many times. People are they're getting money in every month and they're just spending on cars, shoes, clothes, bags, holiday, nice houses. Everything right away needs to be great, perfect, good. And because in this concept idea, you're trying to save as much money as possible, you're rethinking the way you're spending your money. Do I really need to have this big house? Do I really need to have this fancy car? Can I not just buy a second-hand phone? Can I not just buy shoes that are maybe in discount? It really makes you aware of the cost. So I think that shiftment nowadays is more important than ever before. Next up is the next point I want to make is that up next is that it pushes you to find different ways of income. Nowadays I know there are more and more people with a second job, or sometimes they even need it, but it kind of pushes you also out of that comfort zone of having a stable job, working 20, 30, 40 hours a week, and then just live off that money. But if you are getting creative in thinking, hey, I need to make more money, usually come with great ideas, you're exploring your talent, you are adding product and services to the marketplace that can really enhance and make people's life better and easier. So the idea that you maybe want to have more income can result in beautiful products, services, and just happy people in a more beautiful world. So absolutely thumbs up for more creativity and trying to generate more income. We are going to do this now with and last on our pro list is the awareness of saving and investing. because just as much as people now just spending everything that comes in, I feel like people are really losing out of sight how it is to save and invest their money, because sometimes it feels boring, or they really don't need it, or they don't see the end goal in 10, 20, 30 years from now. But because you are pushed to save and invest as much as possible, you're really becoming aware of, where do I put my savings? How much interest rate am I getting? What are great stocks? What are ETFs? What's the kind of return? What are the costs of buying and selling these stocks? How much dividend am I getting? That really ignites a fire in you to really want to do financially better and become aware of how personal finances work, what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So last point, absolutely thumbs up. All right, that does it. All right, so let's now head on to the negatives, so the con side of the whole story. And first up is a warning, because I want you to watch out for credit cards. Now, I know with a lot of these credit cards, you can save points, for instance, American Express, and you can redeem them for something else, which is all great, but it's still a credit card. You have a credit somewhere else and you need to pay that off at a certain point. And it's a little bit dangerous, because if you have a negative balance, 1, 2, 3, 4,000, and you kind of pay it off again, and you get a negative balance, and before you know it, you have a huge amount that you need to pay off, but you have everything in investings, or maybe in savings, or maybe certain investments that you cannot take your money out, for instance, real estate. I'm just afraid that at some point you are going to run into troubles just for the sake of saving and investing as much as you can and building up a debt on the other side. So therefore, try to be careful with maxing out your credit cards, know what you're purchasing, and really know what is on your personal balance sheet, so how many debt you have and how many assets and income you have every month. After that, and that's actually a personal favorite of mine, is I'm asking you, have you maxed out your potential, your talent, when you're going to retire at 35, 38, 40, whatever? Because maybe you're just really good at what you do. You just like what you're doing, or you're maybe destined to do this. Let's say maybe a doctor or a lawyer, or you're very creative with content or marketing or whatever that might be. Yeah, I know when you retire, you have time to do other stuff and focus on other projects. I get it. But maybe the work that you do is just inside of you. You like it. It's your talent. You want to become better. You can do better. So I feel like if you are then kind of quitting with your job, your passion, maybe something you're destined to do at 35 or 38, I'm asking you, have you really maxed out your potential, and will you not regret it just by the sake of reach my goal, can retire early? The third one on the list is that I'm asking you a second question is, have you really enjoyed life if something happens to you in your road up to that financial freedom? So let's say you are indeed saving 50 to 70% of your income every month. You're living in a tiny house, no car, you have no nothing. You actually are maybe a little bit miserable, but you want to succeed as fast as possible. And then suddenly something happens. You get in a car accident, you get sick, you're not able anymore, you cannot do a lot of stuff anymore. And all those years that you just saved and invest your money, you maybe have been unmiserable. Is that really worth it? Have you really enjoyed life in the road up there? Is it only the goal, or is it also the road up to the goal that is important? So try not to focus as much as just I need to reach my goal, I need to reach my goal, no matter what, because you're going to lose yourself along the way. And trust me, it never ends up well. So please be careful. The next one is that the idea with the FIRE movement is that you are going to pay off all debt right away. I do not totally agree with this, because there is something as good debt and bad debt. Now, bad debt is when you lend money and it costs you more money to keep that. But good debt is when you lend money, let's say for 2%, and you can somehow make a return on that, let's say 4%. 4 minus 2 is 2%. So you make then 2%. That is good debt. So the idea of paying all debt, pay off your house and all your loans and everything, I do not totally agree, because for instance nowadays with the mortgage, the interest rate is super low. And again, if you have a business idea and you can turn that debt into good debt and that it produces you more money, then you're even going to reach your goal even faster. So I do not agree with the fact pay off all debt. As long as you can use it as good debt, all cool. Number 5 on the list is the risk that you are going to push yourself to get into risky investments or into investments that you don't know everything about. just for the sake of the return, because you want to reach your goal as early as possible, because therefore, hey, we want to retire early, but maybe you're going to get yourself into something where you think, oh, this 1,000 can make me 1,000,000. Let's say cryptocurrencies, but that 1,000 can also just completely be vanished. And if, let's say, you have 10,000 and you lose 50% of your investment, so you go to 5,000, you need 100% return just to get back to that 10,000. So be very careful with what kind of investments you put your money in. I am afraid that a lot of these FIRE movement people are putting the money into very risky stuff. Right now, everything goes up. Everything is just woo, but there will be a point where markets are going down, where real estate is crashing, where crypto will go down, and then the whole idea, all your savings and investments will just be swept away in a matter of days and weeks. So be very careful. We almost came to the end of the list. The next one is that the idea you're only focused on getting retired as soon as possible. So let's say, okay, my yearly expenses are 50,000, so I need to make enough money or investments. Once they produce me those 50,000, I can retire and I'm done forever. I think that is a little playing on the edge, because always something can happen in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. Maybe 5 years from now, 50,000 is not enough anymore. Or maybe something very bad happens why you suddenly need a big lump sum of money. And then that investment is not enough anymore, or it doesn't produce enough income for you. So the idea of just only being focused on how much do I need to get retired, that is my goal. I find that a little bit too much on the edge. Try to lift it up a little bit. For me, this is a negative. I don't want to live just so that I have enough. I want to live a life personally of abundance, that I can just go wherever I want to go. I can buy food, whatever I want, that I can just rent a nice apartment like this. That for me is the total freedom, and not the idea of just enough to retire. So this one absolutely goes on a negative. Don't play at the edge. And the last on the list, you probably already figured this out, is that the FIRE movement, I feel like, is really towards people who have a very high income, a six-figure income a year. Because let's be honest, if you're making $3,000-$4,000 a month, it is impossible to save 50 to 70%, because you have your rent, your cars, your transportation, all kinds of bills that you need to pay. It's just undoable. But if you make 100 to 150,000, yeah, of course, then you are able to save 50 to 70%. I get it. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people maybe do not understand this right away when they read in or hear for the first time about the FIRE movement. And because I'm sorry, but not everyone around the world makes 100,000, 150,000 a year. It's a lot of money. So therefore, yeah, this just goes on a negative side. I'm sorry, but it feels like it's really more towards people with a high income. And if you don't have a high income, this whole idea is just worthless. I'm sorry. Alright, so now you have a list of all the pros and the cons, and you probably can already guess where I'm standing. I'm not a huge fan of the FIRE movement. I think it's more a bit of a fashion statement. Actually, it's already a very old idea to save and invest as much as possible for your retirement or for later. This idea, I think, is even already hundreds of years old, so I feel like this whole FIRE movement is now just the same concept wrapped into a new paper and presented as something great and amazing and new, and everyone needs to be part of it. I think in this case, the negative side of the story outweighs the positive side. That's why I'm leaning a little bit skeptical towards this. Of course, if you want to retire early, absolutely go for it. I just made you a quick list. Maybe this helps a little bit more in case you don't make six figures a year, in case you are not able to save 50 to 70% a year and you still want to enjoy your life. This list, what I'm going to tell you right now, at least it helped for me a lot, and it just brings me where I want to go. So first up on this list. Next up is eliminate all costs that you don't need or kind of holding you back. Do you really need that new car? Do you really need that new iPhone? You know that I'm a very, very down to earth about these kind of things. I don't have a new phone, and I also don't need to have the most fancy stuff. So trying to eliminate as much cost as you can so that you can save and invest even more money. Next up is only trying to use good debt. So I'm absolutely not against any debt in life as long as you're making a higher return on the money that you're borrowing, because the price of money is the interest rate that you're paying. We all know nowadays that the interest rate is super low, so it should be pretty doable to make a good return on your money. And however you're using it, that's all up to you, but just use debt only in a good way. And as long as you're going to borrow money to buy stuff that you don't need, again, cars, watches, phones, I don't know what, then it's just stupid. For a house, it's a little bit different. I can imagine that you maybe don't have $500,000 laying around to buy a house. I get that. But all the other stuff, do not borrow money for it if you're only going to consume it, if it doesn't produce you anything. Next up is that I really want to urge you to keep an emergency fund, enough to pay the bills for the next 3 to 6 months. So let's say you get fired today, that at least you can pay all your costs, all your bills for the next 3 to 6 months, just in case that you have that financial cushion in case anything happens. And after that, you just save the difference, because that's also right away the next one up the list, is that once you have that financial cushion, you have your buffer, save and invest everything into steady investments. That's right away the next one on the list. Only trying to make steady investments. Yep, they will probably give you a less of a return than the investments that are very exciting and that might go over 10 times, and I get all of that. It also means that they can completely go down and that you lose all your money. I actually made a video about this, about risk and reward, how that goes hand in hand. If you want to see that, I will try to put up a link in the description. But just invest into steady stuff. So for instance, dividend stocks, growth stocks, maybe real estate, or maybe stuff that just really has proven itself to keep its value during the years and slightly go up. And in that case, you can have a good night's sleep, and you know that in a year from now, or 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you know almost a guarantee that an investment has gone up in value or produced you already passive income. And the last one on the list that I want to give is please look into tax advantages of your country. This has saved me so much money already. I know it's boring, I know that you don't like it, but trust me, if you know just a little bit of the rules and the regulations regarding to taxes in your country, you can save so much money. And the government is not going to call you, hey dude, if you would have wrote down this and this, you could save money. Hey, if you'd done this and this, you could have saved money. They're not gonna do it. So you know it, you use it, or you don't. That's just how it works. So try to educate yourself. This is just part of financial literacy. Just become financial independent. Know what you're talking about. Not only about making money, not only about spending or investing money, but also how to save your money on the tax side. This is super important. So I'm challenging you, if you're bored this weekend, try to get into some of the tax advantages of your country. Alright guys, that was already it for this list. I know this video was a little bit long. We were absolutely on fire today. Thank you so much. Please do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, click on the bell, click on all so that you don't miss anything. Leave me a comment. What do you think? I'm very curious. I will do my best to answer as many comments as I can. And share with your friends if you think this is useful, and then we can spread the knowledge. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.